Hello, my name is Courtney James, and I'm here with Jeffrey Wilson, the President and CEO of Precipitate Gold Corp. Jeff, so nice to see you today.
Thanks, Courtney. Great to be here with you.
So can you just start by telling us a little bit about Precipitate and its projects?
Yeah, so Precipitate is a junior exploration company focused on gold and copper projects, primarily in the Dominican Republic. We have 3 assets in the Dominican Republic. We've been there for over 10 years now. And I guess our projects are essentially one project that's immediately adjacent to a resource project of about 3.5 million ounces gold equivalent, and that's held by a company called Gold Quest. And that's a project that's got a number of targets. It's drill ready, but it's a little bit on pause as we wait for some development processes to happen for our neighbors there. Our most prominent asset is a project called the Pueblo Grande Project, which is immediately adjacent to one of the biggest gold mines in the world, and that's Barrick's Pueblo Viejo mine. So we have a project that essentially surrounds that mining operation on 3 sides. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we entered into an earn-in agreement with Barrick, whereby Barrick is spending $10 million over 6 years on our project at Pueblo Grande in an effort to earn a 70% interest in that project. So we're about nearly $5 million of expenditures by Barrick and about 4 years into that earn-in, and they're continuing on with that process. So we're focused basically in the Dominican Republic on those 2 key assets, and at the same time sort of looking at other opportunities as we progress.
So I know myself personally, I usually associate the Dominican Republic more with beach resorts, and I haven't thought about it too much as a mining jurisdiction. Can you speak a little bit on what the jurisdiction is like there and why you've chosen that area for your company?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It is a little bit off the beaten path in terms of, what people in our sector are more familiar with. But as I mentioned earlier, Barrick does have one of the largest gold mining operations in the world there. That's been operating for decades and will continue to operate again for years to come. And it's, Barrick and that contribution to the country's GDP is the single largest contributor to the country's GDP. So, there's no resort, there's no tourism business, there's no manufacturing business that has as much of a positive impact on the Dominican Republic's economy as Barrick's Pueblo Viejo. And there are other mining operations. There's nickel operations and other mining that has been longstanding in the country for a long time. So the country understands the importance of mining as it relates to job creation and taxes and benefits to the economy. And we're seeing now that Barrick is interested in looking elsewhere in country. So they've got obviously a strong foothold with their Pueblo Viejo mine, but they're now starting to look also at what other opportunities are available in the country. So I think you could see the Dominican Republic become and emerge, a little bit more as a mining destination in the years ahead. I will say, however, there have been some political struggles here with permitting and timelines that we have had to sort of wade our way through. But we've also tried to be part of the solution and working closely with the government, with the Chamber of Mines, and trying to be advocates for how mining can be beneficial to the Dominican Republic. So it's a place where we're happy to be operating, and we think there's great opportunity there.
Very cool. On February 14th, you put out some news, and I was just hoping that you could elaborate a little bit on the news and what that means for the company going forward.
Yeah, so Barrick has, as I said, on this earn-in agreement that we have with Barrick at our Pueblo Grande project, Barrick late last year initiated sort of a follow-up phase of drilling on one of the key targets on our project that's located, virtually, a short distance away from their mining operation pit. So it's essentially, a pitching wedge away from, one of the biggest deposits on the planet. So we were pretty excited about the drilling that they were engaging in late last year. And so the announcement that we put out yesterday essentially was an update to investors on how that work has been progressing. And we're really quite encouraged by what Barrick is seeing. Now, on one hand, I think the market was, as speculators always do, the hope was that, there would be some big booming, world-class intersection that would, skyrocket, the stock, and that the project would take off. we didn't see that, or we haven't seen that yet, but what we've seen is very encouraging visuals and geological data that is coming from the drilling that's been done by Barrick. And Barrick has advised us that they plan to do more detailed follow-up work in that area. They like what they see. They think it warrants follow-up, and then they're going to bring in a second drill rig. So, my conversations with Barrick and some of their senior management, they've been forthright about saying, look, we don't, if we don't see something that we think has the criteria to meet our thresholds, which are quite high, we're just not going to waste our time. So the fact that they're bringing in a second drill rig, looking to better vector in this area, I think it's very encouraging news. And so, we're still sort of waiting for more, sort of full assay results and a little bit more detailed information on how the drilling is progressing. But the fact that they're going to continue on, I think is a great step for us. And what they've also indicated, or we relayed in this news release, was they're also looking at other areas of the project. So that's in a zone called Pueblo Grande Norte, where they're doing this drilling, and they will continue drilling through this quarter. But in another area on the other side of the project called Pueblo Grande Sur, they have been doing some more, sort of early stage exploration work, soil sampling and geophysics to try to see whether or not there are some anomalous zones that warrant follow-up. And they have identified a couple of key zones there too. So, in tandem with the results that we're seeing so far and that we've reported on recently, there's other areas that are seeing the same kind of work to progress towards future drilling. So, all of that from a Precipitate standpoint says that, Barrick is going to continue exploring this project. I don't see any indication of them walking away anytime soon, and that there's lots of work and lots of areas still to be tested and explored within our land package. And to have Barrick, funding that work and putting in the money to test these areas, is a great advantage for a company like Precipitate, where, we're in challenging markets and raising capital is hard. It's nice to have a big company spending on your project.
No doubt, that's definitely an asset there. And then, aside from the assets that we've already discussed, I know that Precipitate has a pretty large treasury and has been actively looking for new opportunities. So I was just wondering, what is that looking like, and what kind of opportunities are piquing your interest?
Yeah, we do have a fairly healthy treasury, in the ballpark of $5 million right now. And that came through, actually, again, through this relationship with Barrick, where during their exploration work on our Pueblo Grande project, they came to us with the need for essentially more real estate. And so they needed some parcels of our project for infrastructure purposes. There was no meaningful mineralization there. And we were able to negotiate terms whereby we got a $5 million US payment from Barrick. So completely non-dilutive, no shares were issued. And we put $5 million US in the treasury a couple of years ago. And so that's been a huge advantage in these difficult markets. But, rather than sort of, simply sitting on that, we've been looking at a lot of new opportunities, different jurisdictions, different assets. How do we turn that capital into something accretive for shareholders? So, as Barrick is continuing to drill, as our other assets in the DR may come into play here, in the meantime, we're always on the hunt for something that can add value to shareholders, and somewhere where we can deploy, our own capital. Because at the end of the day, we're not really a project generator model. We're very much explorationists, and we want to spend our money and make discoveries on things that we own 100%. So we are looking for that asset or that concept or idea that we can wrap our hands around and make part of the next phase forward here for Precipitate.
Well, I really appreciate the update on how everything's progressing at Precipitate, and hopefully we'll look forward to some more news coming up here.
Great. Thanks for the time, Courtney. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, have a good day.
Thanks.